Have you tried learning the numbers in Spanish before, but then anytime you hear someone say a number in Spanish in real life, it feels like your brain is short-circuiting? Well, in this video, I'm going to lay out a step-by-step method that you can use to actually learn the numbers in Spanish, so that when someone rattles off a price, year, phone number, or whatever other number, you can actually catch it. Before I lay out the step-by-step method, I want to quickly explain the underlying logic of it. So many of the common resources about learning Spanish numbers fail because they simply tell you the numbers. They show the numbers in English and explain how to say them in Spanish, and have you translate between the two with you still intuitively thinking in English. And by practicing the numbers this way, you memorize how to count in Spanish translated from English. But the problem with this is that it doesn't really help you with Spanish numbers when they are used in real-life situations at real-life speed and without warning. Because when you hear a Spanish number, instead of associating it directly to the concept of that number, you have to realize it was a number and then reverse engineer it to the English number, and while you're doing that, the person is still talking. I remember when I would be watching a Spanish YouTube video or TV show, and despite being able to count up to 100 in Spanish without difficulty, when someone would say a number out of nowhere, my brain wouldn't even be able to process it. I would know that they had said a number, but would have absolutely no idea what the number was. And if I tried to think really hard to figure it out, I would be missing a bunch of whatever they were saying after it. And this is because the ability to count is completely different from the ability to hear and understand numbers. To get to a point where you can actually catch Spanish numbers in real life, you need to have the listening comprehension ability to be able to parse through the words that are being spoken basically immediately, so you can not only recognize them as numbers, but also catch the numbers themselves. And you need to understand how Spanish speakers say different kinds of numbers. Here's what I mean. If someone is giving you their phone number and you can't parse through what they're saying quickly enough to actually be able to recognize the words, then it will obviously sound like gibberish. At best, your brain will recognize that they are saying numbers without actually remembering any of the numbers themselves. But even if your listening comprehension is strong enough where you can understand the numbers, if you're not aware of the fact that some Spanish speakers give phone numbers in groupings of 2, 2, 2, and 3, and you're expecting the phone number in groupings of 3, 3, and 4, which is how most American English speakers give their phone numbers, you might get thrown off and end up not catching anything. Now that that's out of the way, here is the step-by-step method of how to actually learn the numbers in Spanish. At the start, you do want to develop a very basic familiarity with how to count in Spanish. You don't need to have anything memorized, just a cursory understanding is fine. If you're watching this video, you're probably already there, but if you're not, just watch any of the trillion YouTube videos that have been made on this exact subject. Once you have this very basic level of familiarity, you're going to go to langpractice.com, which is completely free and which will be linked in the video description below. For Spanish learners, Lang Practice lets you choose between Mexican pronunciation and Spanish pronunciation, so just pick whichever you want, click Listening Practice, and hit Start. Lang Practice will then play the audio pronunciation of a number and wait for you to type it. Once you type the correct number, it will play another. The website defaults to 0 through 10, and that is perfect because at the beginning, that's what you'll choose. Every day, at least once per day, you are going to start a 5-minute timer and then spend that time trying to just type the numbers that you hear. At first, when you hear the numbers, you will probably need to think a little bit before you're able to type. But over time, you will develop an automatic response where you hear a number and almost immediately type it. Once you hit that point, you will adjust the range setting to be 0 through 100, and you will do your daily 5-minute sessions with this new range until you can hear and type those in without thinking. It will take you a longer time to get to that level of comfort with the 0 to 100 range than it did with the 0 to 10 range, but it's totally fine, you will get there eventually. Once there, adjust the range setting to be 0 through 1000. And you will continue this process for as long as you want to, doing daily 5-minute sessions and updating the range as you get comfortable. It is really helpful for most people to reach a level where they can immediately hear and synthesize spoken numbers up to at least a few thousand. For prices of things, for phone numbers, and for dates and times, you're not typically going to be needing numbers in the hundreds of thousands or millions, But if you want or need to, you can certainly continue this process until you can hear a number like 5,410,972 and get it without thinking. This will help you develop your ability to hear numbers and immediately parse them, which is absolutely necessary for getting to a point where you can understand numbers in real life. But once you have reached that level of listening comprehension, you still need to start learning the specific ways Spanish speakers refer to things like dates, times, prices, phone numbers, addresses, etc. While you will probably pick up some of this just from consuming lots of Spanish content, it is really helpful to specifically learn it as well. So if you want to learn phone numbers, for instance, watch some YouTube videos, read some articles, or find a textbook that explains the basic conventions that people use when sharing their phone numbers. Then you should try to seek out content where people repeatedly use that type of number. So if you are trying to get better at catching prices of items, read through a couple of articles that explain how Spanish speakers say prices, and then watch a bunch of budget grocery shopping YouTube videos so you can hear people saying prices over and over and over. And essentially, you just keep doing this. You strengthen your listening comprehension ability so that when you hear a number, you don't even need to think to catch it, and you get familiar with the ways Spanish speakers say different kinds of numbers. If you give this method a shot, I'd love to hear how it worked for you, and if you find this video helpful, I'd really appreciate it if you took a minute to like and subscribe. And feel free to let me know if there are any other language learning topics you'd like me to talk about in the future.